when you start designing a production?
For us, it all starts with the script. So if I'm working on a straight play, that's just the script. If it's an opera or a musical, I'm also listening to the music. And before our even first design meeting, I'm reading the script several times. And what I tell my students is that they need to think of themselves as a detective. And they're reading through the play or listening to the music, looking for clues on how to visually represent that character. So I'm reading through and trying to pull out all the details about this person's personality or their status in life, things like that. When we go to the first design meeting, it's really still a wide open field, a blank slate. I'm meeting with the director and all of the other designers, so that'd be sound, scenic, lighting, um, and props to see what their interpretation of the story is. We want to make sure that we're all telling the same story. So we talk about themes and adjectives, not necessarily a time period or a specific look yet, but we might say, I feel like it's moody, or I feel like it's joyful, or something like that to kind of set us off on our own direction before we go and do our individual research and come back and share that together.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you collaborate with other designers?
So, costume design is definitely a team sport. All of theater is a team sport. You really have to work well with others. Every step of the process is collaborative. So, in these design meetings, it's not just about what looks good, it's about what works well together to tell the story. So, for example, I'm talking to the scenic designer to make sure that I don't have an ensemble in all red costumes against a red curtain. That would be a problem. Or to use the same red costumes again as an example, there are a lot of different lighting colors, gels that when shined on the costumes can make red costumes look brown. So I'm also working with the lighting designer to make sure that that's going to work. I'm talking to the choreographer to make sure that this person I put in a pencil skirt doesn't have to do the jump splits. That happens a lot. And even after I'm done with the collaborative process with the other designers, there's still more collaboration on the way that happens. So after the design process is done and we move into the technical process, I'm working with my team next door, our amazing pattern makers and stitchers and shop managers, to make sure that all the costumes are looking correct. They're asking me about fit and fabrics. So I'm always checking in with them every day to make sure we're on the same page. And then after that process, we move into the fittings with the performers, and I'm collaborating with them to make sure that they're comfortable. It's wonderful if a costume is beautiful, but if a performer can't do their job in the costume, it's completely useless. So have to make sure that they feel confident and that they can do their blocking and movement in that as well.
So last year you designed Anything Goes. Could you tell us a little bit about some of these beautiful dresses in your process?
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned before, the costume design process all starts with reading the script, getting to know the characters, and in this case, listening to the wonderful music of Cole Porter, since all of the music in the show was written by Cole Porter. After we have a really good understanding of the characters, I met with the design team and the director, Dr. Herndon, and he said he really wanted it to be a very joyous, colorful production, but also keeping in mind that this was put on during the Great Depression. So there is some dark humor that kind of hints at what's going on in the real world, but it's an escapist performance piece. It's something people are seeing to escape their daily lives. So it should be very joyous, colorful, and fun. So after we had that direction from Dr. H, I went back and did a lot of costume research. I was also really inspired by some artwork from the time, some of the posters and advertisements for travel. And after I had my research, I developed some rough sketches. So here's an example of a rough sketch for this particular costume for Reno during Blow Gabriel Blow. And I really wanted it to be a big reveal. So at the beginning, she's singing more choir-like music. It feels very church environment. So she starts out with a very covering church robe, and then halfway through the song, she rips that off to reveal this very scandalous dress that we see here. After I had the design set in mind, I worked with our technical team next door to figure out how we were actually going to make it. Because in my design, of course, it's just bare skin. That's really not going to work for the performer. The performer needs the costume to stay on. So we ended up building it on top of a flesh tone leotard, and we just painted in some of the body features so that under the stage lighting, it appears to be a nude piece going down the side of the costume, but the performer has full coverage. It's also made out of a stretch material because it's a really big dance number, and we added these fringe pieces so that when she's doing her movement, it would add to some of the fire elements of the piece. Um, and then here is the final rendering that I showed for this piece before it got approved and moved into the technical stage. And then over here we have one of the big romantic dresses for Hope. And for this dress, we knew it was going to be a little bit of a dream sequence. Everyone is sort of going to fade away in the background, and she and her partner were going to have a really big, lovely romantic dance. Since it's just the two of them on this huge stage, I really wanted to have a lot of sparkle so that the light was going to make it feel more magical. Initially, the rough sketch for this one was more of a seafoam green, but then once the performers were cast with their skin tone, I thought that might make them look a little bit sickly. So we switched and pivoted to make it this more sky blue color. And so here's the final rendering that we did for this piece. And yeah, it looked really great on stage. It was a fan favorite, that one.
Well, thank you very much for spending this time chatting with us. Once again, congratulations on being the 2025 Distinguished Achievement in the Scholarship of Discovery here at OCU. We're truly lucky to have you, and thank you very much.
Thank you.